CJ Gardner-Johnson is a free agent, but should the Philadelphia Eagles call their ex up and say, let's get back together? I don't know. There is a lot that's going on with this CJ Gardner-Johnson situation. And while I do love the idea of CJ Gardner-Johnson back with the Philadelphia Eagles, bringing that energy to the defense, bringing that energy to the team that we know he certainly can, there are some reasons of, are we sure about that? Do we really want CJ Gardner-Johnson back on this football team? And I want to start with the tweet from Aaron Wilson regarding why the Texans released CJ Gardner-Johnson. Hashtag Texans release CJ Gardner-Johnson after friction behind the scenes with him complaining about his role, wanting to blitz more, and per league sources even communicating that he wanted to be traded. There were as well reports that he was upset about a contract extension that another player got and that he was being too hard on other players on the team, which the Texans are 0-3, so I don't think that I think tough love there is fine. But, however, the asking for a trade request 2-3 games in, I don't love it. I don't love the mentality. And I do get it to an extent of being frustrated with the team situation. CJ Gardner-Johnson on the Philadelphia Eagles last year only lost 3 games total. Now on Houston, he's lost 3 games to open up the season. CJ Gardner-Johnson didn't request to be traded from the Eagles, wasn't a free agent. They just sent him to Houston. Now I'm sure maybe Howie asked him if he'd like to go there or whatnot, but he wanted and maybe still wants to be a Philadelphia Eagle. That's why he signed a 3-year contract with the Eagles. The Eagles moved off of him in what many thought was a surprising move this offseason. Does Howie Roseman just have 20/20 vision? Did he see this coming? Did he think that the juice was no longer worth the squeeze when it comes to CJ Gardner-Johnson? Or does Howie just know that there's some paychecks coming down the road? Tough decision had to be made. They love CJ. And now that CJ's a free agent with his money already guaranteed this year, maybe Howie's like, we could certainly bring CJ back for a vet min. And maybe CJ is like, let me come back for a vet min to show that I'm a culture guy. If that is the situation we are in, I would be, welcome home, baby. Welcome home, CJ. Because, truthfully, I do think there's a role for CJ Gardner-Johnson on this team. Right now, our starting safeties are Andrew Makuba and Reed Blankenship. And I wouldn't bench either of them for CJ Gardner-Johnson. I think Makuba has the tools to be a better player. I think he's already better in pass protection. I think he's a better coverage safety today. CJ Gardner-Johnson, though, is one of the best run-stopping safeties in the NFL. We know what he brings when he lays the hit. And if you watch the Rams game this weekend, you would see the Eagles missed a little bit of that. Because when Kyren Williams was getting to the second level, there wasn't a CJ Gardner-Johnson to pop him and remind him where he's at. And I think Philly could use that as well. Right now, if Andrew Makuba or Reed Blankenship were to get hurt, we would be relying on Sidney Brown, who I think is fine for special teams, but I would be terrified if he was a starting safety on our defense. Now, back to Aaron Wilson's report. I want to pull this up again. The number one thing here, CJ Gardner-Johnson was complaining about his role. His role would be less in Philly. Is he willing to take that on? You know, I think it's worth noting that Aaron Wilson is an NFL reporter, but he covers the Texans exclusively. My guess is his sources are coming from inside the Texans offense, aka it is being spun the direction the Texans want it to be spun. But if he was not happy with his role in Houston, will he be happy being a rotational piece in Philadelphia? I don't know. but that is what I'm comfortable with him being. I'm not benching rookie Andrew Makuba, who already has one of the biggest plays of the Eagles season through 3 weeks. I'm not benching Reed Blankenship, who's been as consistent can be. Are there some base looks where you could have Quignon on one outside, DeJean on another, Makuba or CJ Gardner-Johnson as a nickel, and then the other at free safety? Sure. My only issue with that is, those aren't base looks, those are nickel looks, but are there some looks where you could do that? Apologies, misspoke. Yes. But Cooper DeJean is the best nickel in football. Do I want to remove him from that role? No. And CJ Gardner-Johnson, while I love CJ, does not solve the biggest issue on Philly's defense, which is cornerback 2. Because I don't want to move Cooper DeJean from nickel, where he is the best nickel corner in football, to outside corner. So there's a lot to think about. Personality, fit. Does CJ like the fit? You know, I saw some reports on Twitter saying that we couldn't sign CJ, that we could sign CJ. I'm pretty confident, 80% sure we could. If somebody's going to hop in the comment section explaining why we can't. I did see the post, but then the line below it in the NFL rules basically says if he's a free agent, we can sign him. And he's also a vested veteran, so I'm not even sure if any of that applies. It's all like NFL bylaw talk. I would have thought at this point in time, Schefter or Rappaport would have made it known that we couldn't sign him. So I think we could. Yeah. So I appreciate everybody for checking out the channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you love the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me know. Should we bring back CJ Gardner-Johnson? I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.